You wake up in the middle of the night in your cozy, candlelit room in a quiet village in southern France. But something's wrong. You're fully aware, eyes wide open, staring at the wooden ceiling above. But your body won't move. Not a finger, not even your tongue to scream. You feel a crushing weight on your chest, like someone's sitting on you. But there's no one there. Then come the sounds. Low whispers in a language you've never heard. A creaking floorboard, although no one's home. And a shadow shifting at the corner of your vision. You try to move. Nothing. Panic creeps in, your breath shallow, your heart pounding like a war drum. Just when you think it's over, the weight lifts. You jolt up, sweaty, heart racing, but alive. Was it a ghost, a nightmare, or just your brain playing tricks? Welcome to the terrifying and strangely common phenomenon known as sleep paralysis. Have you ever experienced something like this? Let us know in the comments. You might not be alone. So, what exactly is sleep paralysis? Let's break it down. Without the Latin medical jargon, sleep paralysis is that delightful moment when your brain wakes up and says, "Time to start the day." But your body replies, "Nah, I'm still offline." Basically, your mind is fully awake, but your muscles are stuck in sleep mode. That's when the fun starts. You can't move. You can't scream. And because your brain doesn't like confusion, it starts filling in the blanks with creativity. Enter shadowy figures, suffocating pressure, creepy whispers. None of it is actually real, but try telling that to someone who thinks a demon is playing piano on their lungs. This phenomenon usually lasts a few seconds to a couple of minutes, but feels like a full-length horror film. It's terrifying, fascinating, and surprisingly common. So no, you're not haunted. You're just a victim of biology doing weird things. Again, and don't worry, we're only just getting started. Let's talk symptoms, because what's a good horror experience without a checklist? First up, chest pressure. Not the romantic kind, but the "I think a horse is sitting on me" kind. Then choking sensations. Fun! It's like being strangled by an invisible ghost who skipped leg day, but is really into CrossFit. And we can't forget the classic shadow figure, lurking at the corner of your room, not paying rent, just standing there menacingly. Some lucky folks even get audio effects, whispering voices, footsteps, or a mysterious buzzing sound like your brain just joined a haunted radio station. Others feel like they're being dragged off the bed by something unseen, and still a few manage to float out of their bodies like budget-friendly ghosts. All of this, mind you, while being completely paralyzed. Congrats, you've unlocked the full nightmare DLC, but don't worry, you're still normal. Just experiencing the deluxe edition of human consciousness gone glitchy. All right, time for a plot twist. Did you know sleep paralysis can happen not just at night, but also during daytime naps? Yep, evil doesn't clock out at sunrise. Whether it's 3 a.m. under a full moon or 3 p.m. on a lazy Sunday, your brain can still decide, let's ruin this nap real quick. Some people even report daytime episodes being worse, probably because their brain goes, "Hey, it's daytime. Nothing spooky should be happening." And then boom, shadow figures at noon. Mechanically, there's not much difference. It's still that misfire between your waking mind and sleeping body. But psychologically, daytime sleep paralysis just feels more rude, like getting haunted while the sun's out and birds are chirping. So if you thought naps were safe zones, surprise. Turns out sleep paralysis has no concept of working hours. You might want to rethink that afternoon siesta on the couch. So here comes the million-euro question. What is sleep paralysis really? Is it just a weird brain hiccup, a mini psychological glitch? Or is it something else entirely? Because let's be honest, when you're lying frozen with a shadow growling in the corner, it doesn't feel like science. It feels like a horror movie you forgot to audition for. Some say it's a dream gone rogue. Others claim it's your soul caught between dimensions. And of course, there's always that one friend who swears their grandmother saw a ghost riding a black goat during sleep paralysis. In truth, no one has all the answers. Not yet. And that's what makes it fascinating. In the next chapters, we'll dive into both science and the supernatural, skepticism and spirituality. Because sleep paralysis doesn't just haunt your nights, it also haunts the border between logic and belief. Ready? Let's step into the shadows together. Welcome to the most awkward breakup of all time. Your brain and your body stop talking to each other. During sleep paralysis, the brain wakes up and says, "Rise and shine." But the body hits snooze and keeps sleeping like a rebellious teenager. This weird desync happens because your brain exits the sleep state too early, while your muscles are still locked down by something called REM atonia, a fancy way of saying your body is temporarily paralyzed, so you don't karate chop your pillow in your dreams. The result? You're wide awake, stuck in a body that won't move, with all the side effects of your brain going, "Where's the exit? Why am I hearing whispers? Is that a demon?" But rest assured, this isn't possession. It's just biology being lazy about syncing files. It's like waking up your laptop and realizing the mouse is working, but the screen is still frozen. Classic glitch. And just like all glitches, it's usually temporary, unless your brain decides to keep things spooky. Let's take a detour into dreamland, specifically the REM stage. REM stands for rapid eye movement, which sounds like an action movie, but it's actually when your eyes dart around wildly while you're deep in dream mode. During REM sleep, your brain is partying hard, dreaming about flying sheep, awkward exes, or fighting zombies with a baguette. To keep you from acting out these dreams and accidentally roundhouse kicking your bookshelf, your body activates a safety feature: temporary paralysis. Yup, it's built in. The only problem? Sometimes your brain exits the dream club before your body disables the freeze button. Voila, sleep paralysis. You're awake, but still stuck in do not move mode. Think of REM like your brain's private rave. Most of the time, the bouncer, your nervous system, knows when to shut it down. But occasionally, the rave keeps going, and you're stuck watching in horror, unable to dance or leave. Want a fast track to sleep paralysis? Easy. Just mix stress, sleep deprivation, and a sprinkle of existential dread. In fact, if your life currently feels like a season finale with no budget and too many plot twists, congratulations, you're a prime candidate. When you're overworked, your brain doesn't get to properly reboot at night. Instead of smooth sleep cycles, you get brain chaos, like a drunk DJ skipping tracks. Add in anxiety and irregular sleep hours, and boom, welcome to sleep paralysis land. Population, you. Scientists have found that chronic sleep deprivation and mood disorders like anxiety or depression can increase your chances of experiencing it. Think of it as your brain waving a tiny white flag saying, "Can I please have a nap that doesn't feel like a horror short film?" But don't worry, we'll soon talk about how to avoid this nightmare playlist. First, let's see how your favorite sleeping position might betray you. So you've been sleeping flat on your back, like a royal mummy, and wondering, why do I keep waking up in a horror movie? Well, about that. Sleeping on your back may look classy, but it's basically an open invitation to sleep paralysis to crash your REM party. When you lie supine, gravity does its thing. Your tongue and throat relax backward, your breathing can become shallower, and your body feels extra still. This combo might make it easier for your brain to go, are we dying? And boom, cue the shadow people. Studies suggest that people who sleep on their backs are more likely to experience sleep paralysis than those who sleep on their sides. So maybe it's time to ditch the vampire pose and go full fetal position. Or at least try sleeping like a tired raccoon. On your side, slightly curled, dreaming of snacks instead of demons. Let's address the burning question that hits mid-panic. Can sleep paralysis kill me? Short answer, no. Long answer, still no, but it can definitely make you feel like you're starring in your own horror movie. The inability to move, the pressure on your chest, the shadowy figures. It's all terrifying, yes, but deadly, not at all. Think of it like a psychological prank pulled by your brain while it's trying to reboot. Your breathing may feel shallow, but it's still working. Your heart may race like it's in a Formula One finale, but it's just adrenaline doing its thing. The biggest danger isn't physical, it's mental. Panic, fear, and not knowing what's happening can leave emotional scars. But once you understand the science, it's a bit less possessed by ancient spirits and more, my brain just needs a software update. Knowledge is power, especially when that knowledge helps you sleep through the night without thinking you're being watched by a Victorian ghost with commitment issues. Long before sleep paralysis had a fancy name or scientific explanation, people in Vietnam already had a name for it, Ma Jay, which translates to ghost pressing. According to folklore, this wasn't about neurons misfiring. No, sir. This was about vengeful spirits, wandering souls, or mischievous ghosts sitting right on your chest. It didn't matter if you were a farmer, scholar, or a guy who forgot to burn incense during Lunar New Year. If you got Ma Jay, clearly something from the afterlife had beef with you. Some believed it was a ghost visiting unfinished business. Others thought it was a wandering soul looking for a body to crash in for the night. Like Airbnb, but way less friendly. And of course, there was always a neighborhood elder ready to blame the ancient tree out back. Science hadn't arrived yet, but the fear was very real. And when you're paralyzed and see a shadowy figure crouched on your chest, honestly, ghost sounds like a pretty solid theory. Europe has its own VIP monster in the sleep paralysis club, the infamous night hag. No, she's not your grumpy aunt. According to centuries-old European folklore, the night hag is a terrifying old witch who sneaks into bedrooms at night and, surprise, sits right on your chest. Not to tuck you in, but to steal your breath like she's collecting expired souls for fun. Descriptions vary, but she's usually portrayed as an old woman with wild hair, wrinkled skin, and a face only a horror film could love. And she doesn't walk, she glides. Because walking is for amateurs, and she's been terrorizing dreams since the Middle Ages. People believed that seeing her meant you'd done something wrong, or maybe just forgot to say your bedtime prayers. Either way, waking up with her on your chest was enough to make even the toughest knight consider sleeping in full armor. Forget science. When a floating hag is eyeing your lungs like a buffet, logic packs its bags and runs. In Japan, sleep paralysis doesn't just have a name. It has a whole backstory with curses, demons, and revenge. It's called kanashibari, which roughly translates to bound in metal, because that's exactly how it feels. But this isn't just a poetic metaphor. In Japanese folklore, kanashibari is often linked to spirits with unfinished business, angry ghosts, or even dark curses placed on you by someone with a grudge and too much free time. You didn't clean the shrine? Boom. Kanashibari. You laughed at your friend's haunted doll? Kanashibari Deluxe Edition, with bonus whispering. Some say it's the soul trying to escape the body, others claim it's a spirit entering. Either way, the experience is enough to make you sleep with one eye open and a salt circle around your futon. While modern Japan also acknowledges the scientific explanation, the cultural fear still lingers. Because when your grandma warns you not to sleep near the closet, just listen, trust us, hasta. In many African cultures, sleep paralysis isn't just a glitch in the brain, it's spiritual warfare. According to tradition, it happens when malevolent spirits or ancestral forces decide to hitch a ride on your body while you're asleep, literally. Some believe that these spirits sit or even ride on your chest like you're a midnight Uber. Others say it's a punishment, maybe for breaking taboos, disrespecting ancestors, or just walking past a cursed tree without saying hi. In some regions, sleep paralysis is also seen as a form of spiritual attack from jealous people using witchcraft. Talk about petty drama that transcends the physical plane. That's why protective rituals, charms, and spiritual cleansing are commonly used to guard against such experiences. Western science may call it REM-related muscle atonia, but in the village it's more like, you better talk to grandma's ghost before bed or risk getting body slammed by the invisible. Before science tried to explain sleep paralysis with neurons and REM cycles, ancient civilizations already had their own spooky explanations. And honestly, theirs were way more dramatic. The Maya believed it was the work of a spirit creature visiting you in the night to deliver messages or punishments, depending on your karma. In ancient China, people saw it as a sign that wandering ghosts or mischievous spirits were having a bit too much fun on your chest. Taoist rituals included bells, talismans, and loud chanting to drive them away, because apparently even ghosts hate noise. These cultures didn't have EEGs, but they had incense, dragons, and stories passed down through generations that said, hey, if you feel something pressing your chest at night, light a candle, pray to your ancestors, and maybe sleep with one eye open. Whether it was a divine message or spiritual mischief, one thing was clear. People were not chill about sleep paralysis. And honestly, who could blame them? Here's where things go from weird to hold my holy water. Many people who experience sleep paralysis report something eerily similar to near-death experiences. Picture this. You're paralyzed in bed. Suddenly you feel yourself floating, slowly rising, and then, boom! You're looking down at your own body like a confused ghost intern on their first day. Some say they see themselves from the ceiling. Others float through walls like part-time spirits. It's often described as peaceful until they realize, wait, why am I hovering near the fan? Scientists might call it a misfire in the brain's spatial awareness or REM dissociation. But let's be real, it feels like your soul is taking a midnight stroll. Whether it's a glimpse of the afterlife or just your brain cosplaying as Doctor Strange, it's one of the spookiest, most surreal parts of the sleep paralysis experience. And if you ever find yourself floating out of your body, try not to panic. Unless you see a light, then maybe ask if there's a return ticket. Let's talk about the VIP guests of every sleep paralysis story, the shadow people. Yep, those vague, faceless figures that just love to loiter silently in the corner of your room like unpaid extras from a horror movie. You're paralyzed, can't move a toe, and there they are. Tall, still, and somehow always backlit for maximum creepiness. No eyes, no mouth. Just pure, undefined menace. Some folks say they felt like these beings were watching them. Others swear the figures moved closer each time they blinked. There's even a running joke that these shadows have better attendance records than most of your exes. Science explains this as a trick of the mind, your brain trying to make sense of sensory confusion. But honestly, when you wake up to a humanoid silhouette standing by your sock drawer, just a trick of the brain doesn't quite cut it, whether it's a ghost, a demon, or your overactive imagination. One thing's for sure, shadow people are the worst roommates ever. And now we get to the real horror movie stuff. Choking sensations, leg pulling, and that lovely feeling of being yanked straight out of bed by something you can't see. Sound fun? Didn't think so. Many sleep paralysis survivors describe the exact same thing, a pressure on the throat, like an invisible hand trying to shut them up, or suddenly feeling like someone is grabbing their ankles, tugging them toward the foot of the bed, as if your childhood fear of monsters under the bed finally got promoted to night shift. Some even say they felt like they were being dragged halfway to the afterlife before snapping back to reality. Cue dramatic gasp. Science, again, chalks it up to misfiring motor signals and sleep-induced hallucinations. But tell that to someone who just fought an invisible MMA demon at 3 a.m. It's no wonder many cultures interpret these attacks as possession, or at the very least, a really rude ghost prank. Either way, being pulled out of bed is never a 5-star experience. As if sleep paralysis wasn't already creepy enough, some people report it comes with bonus sound effects and paranormal Easter eggs. Imagine lying frozen in bed and hearing loud knocks on your bedroom door, only to realize no one's home. Or maybe a glass suddenly falls off the shelf like it's been nudged by a ghost with anger issues. And let's not forget the pets. Cats hissing at empty corners, dogs barking at absolutely nothing. Or worse, just staring at the wall like it's the finale of a ghost reality show. These strange occurrences often accompany or follow a sleep paralysis episode, making the whole experience feel less like a brain glitch and more like an uninvited guest from the spirit realm is hanging around. Some say it's just coincidence. Others think it's the energy shift when dimensions overlap. Either way, when your dog starts growling at your closet after you've just escaped a shadow demon dream, maybe don't go check it. Just pretend you're asleep. Spirit-proof logic. One of the creepiest recurring themes in sleep paralysis stories? The faceless watcher. Victims often describe waking up, unable to move, only to sense they're not alone. Standing at the foot of the bed or in the corner of the room is a figure. Not a monster, not a ghost, but something worse. A human-shaped shadow with no face, no eyes, no mouth, just an eerie blank. And yet they feel it watching, observing, judging maybe? Some say the faceless entity leans closer, as if trying to get a better look. But when you try to scream, nothing comes out. When you try to blink, it doesn't help, and then it vanishes, like a pop-up ad for existential dread. Many believe this figure represents an ancient archetype of fear. Others think it's a spirit. Some just uninstall their entire sleep schedule after that. So next time you wake up and feel like you're being watched, check the corner. Or don't. Maybe ignorance is bliss, especially when the observer has no face and no chill. So, who's most likely to star in their own late-night horror show called Sleep Paralysis, the sequel? Well, if you're sleep-deprived, stressed out, or your sleep schedule looks like a Jackson Pollock painting, congratulations, you're a prime candidate. Studies have shown that people with irregular sleep patterns, chronic anxiety, or a history of sleep disorders are more prone to sleep paralysis. Basically, if your brain is running on espresso and chaos, it might forget to tell your body, hey, it's time to wake up. All of you. The result? Your body hits the snooze button while your brain throws a full-blown rave, complete with hallucinations and existential dread. And if you add emotional burnout or a side of overthinking, the experience gets an upgrade to deluxe nightmare mode. So next time someone humble brags about pulling 3 all-nighters, gently remind them they're one sleepless week away from being greeted by the shadow man in the corner. Rest well, or else. Is recurring sleep paralysis a medical red flag, or just your brain pranking you on loop? Turns out, if you're experiencing it more often than your favorite playlist, it might be a sign of an underlying sleep disorder. Chronic insomnia, narcolepsy, or disrupted REM cycles are frequent culprits. When your sleep quality is about as reliable as a medieval weather forecast, your brain starts glitching. It says, wake up, but forgets to hit the move your body switch. The more the cycle repeats, the more your body starts treating bedtime like a haunted house tour, tense, alert, and half expecting a ghostly handshake. Experts recommend checking your sleep hygiene and, if things persist, visiting a specialist, preferably one who doesn't respond to, I saw a shadow person with a crucifix. Long story short, frequent sleep paralysis isn't just spooky, it might be your brain's way of screaming, fix my bedtime, please. Let's talk about the emotional power duo, PTSD and depression, because apparently they also throw the worst sleepovers. Studies show that people with PTSD or chronic depression are more likely to experience sleep paralysis. Why? Their brains are like hyper-vigilant security guards who drank too much espresso, always on edge, never fully relaxing. This constant mental alertness messes with REM sleep, causing abrupt awakenings where the brain is awake, but the body's still stuck in snooze mode. And what better way to spice up a depressive episode than to wake up and see a faceless shadow watching you from the corner? Delightful. For those already battling emotional trauma, sleep paralysis can feel like the universe's idea of a twisted sequel. The takeaway? If you or someone you love is facing frequent sleep terrors alongside mental health struggles, it might be time to talk to a professional, not just your cat, unless your cat is also a licensed therapist, in which case, amazing. You're lying there frozen, and suddenly you see something. Maybe it's a figure in the doorway, or a shadow hovering near your chest, or your grandma, except she's been dead for 10 years. Welcome to ghost hallucinations, the brain's overachieving way of saying, oops, I panicked. During sleep paralysis, your mind scrambles to explain the terrifying mismatch between being mentally awake and physically paralyzed. So it hits the horror button and plays your worst nightmares in HD. The culprit? The temporoparietal junction, a brain region known for handling body perception and spatial awareness, gets a little too creative when it's confused. The result? Phantom figures, whispers, cold hands, glowing eyes. You name it. But hey, at least your imagination is impressive, right? So the next time you swear you saw a demon crawl on the ceiling, just know it was your brain's way of throwing a spooky pajama party, with you as the unwilling guest of honor. It starts with one sleep paralysis episode. No big deal, right? But then it happens again and again. Soon you're triple checking your room every night, avoiding cheese before bed like it's cursed, and seriously considering hiring an exorcist named Greg. For some people, sleep paralysis doesn't just visit. It moves in, unpacks its ghostly bags, and haunts their mental health. Over time, the fear of falling asleep becomes a real problem. You start dreading bedtime more than Monday mornings. This chronic fear can spiral into insomnia, anxiety, or even a full-blown phobia of sleeping. It's a vicious cycle. Poor sleep increases sleep paralysis, which makes you fear sleep, which leads to even worse sleep. The solution? Understanding, education, and maybe a little therapy with someone who doesn't judge you when you say, "I think my mattress hates me." Sleep paralysis doesn't have to become your nightly horror series. With the right help, it's possible to evict the fear and finally get some rest, with or without Greg. You're peacefully drifting off, dreaming of pizza or winning the lottery, when suddenly, boom, your heart races, you feel like you're falling into a black hole, and your ears start ringing like someone left a kettle boiling in your brain. Welcome to the early warning signs of sleep paralysis. Think of them as the body's overly dramatic alarm system. These sensations, racing heart, falling feeling, ringing ears, are not signs of a haunted mattress, but signals from your nervous system that your sleep cycle is misfiring. Some people even report a strange buzzing or a sudden weight on their chest, like an invisible cat decided to take a nap there. The trick is not to panic. Recognizing these signs means you have a brief moment to mentally prepare. Oh great, here comes the night demon again? Classic. Humor helps. So does mindfulness. And maybe, just maybe, you'll get through it without launching yourself out of bed like a panicked squirrel in pajamas. So, you're paralyzed in bed, can't move, can't scream, and it feels like a medieval ghost just sat on your lungs. Welcome to sleep paralysis, where your brain is wide awake, but your body hit the snooze button. Don't panic. Seriously, that's rule number one. The more you freak out, the longer it drags on. Instead, focus all your remaining willpower on one noble mission. Wiggle your pinky toe. Yep, not your whole arm, not your head, just one tiny toe or finger. That micro movement sends a signal to your body like, "Hey, we're still alive down here." And from there, the system slowly restarts. It's like rebooting an ancient computer with a paperclip. Thousands of survivors swear by this trick. And no, it doesn't require a magic talisman or a Latin chant. So next time you're stuck between sleep and scream, channel your inner Jedi and let the toe do the talking. Let's talk sleeping positions. Because yes, how you flop onto your bed at night might just determine whether you meet sweet dreams or get a visit from the sleep paralysis phantom. Spoiler alert, lying on your back is like sending a handwritten invitation to Mr. Shadow Demon himself. Studies in traumatized survivors have shown that people who sleep on their backs are more likely to experience sleep paralysis. Why? Something about airway pressure, REM cycles, and probably the universe being petty. So what can you do? Easy, sleep on your side. Pick a favorite, fetal curl, semi-sphinx, or the classic pillow hug. Also, mind the pillow. Too high, you strain your neck. Too low, you snore like a foghorn and summon sleep demons out of spite. A medium firm pillow that keeps your head aligned with your spine is the real MVP. Sleep smart, sleep sideways, and maybe, just maybe, you'll avoid being flattened by a ghost with trust issues. Want to stop being visited by the nighttime chest sitter, TM? Then let's talk about something boring but vital. Sleep hygiene. No, it's not about showering before bed, though please do that too. We're talking about good habits that keep your sleep cycle running smoother than a Swiss watch. First rule, go to bed at the same time every night. Yes, even on weekends. Second, ditch the phone, tablet, or any glowing screen at least 30 minutes before sleep, unless your idea of a lullaby is scrolling through terrifying Reddit stories. Third, don't eat like a medieval knight right before bed. That giant cheese platter, save it for lunch. And last but not least, limit caffeine. that just one espresso at 9 p.m. might be the reason you're getting flattened by a shadow demon at 3 a.m. Build a bedtime routine, treat your brain like a sleepy puppy, and it might just stop barking at invisible ghosts while you sleep. Sometimes your worst enemy isn't the shadowy figure in your room, it's your overworked, stressed out brain. Enter meditation, breathing exercises, and yoga. No, you don't need to turn into a levitating monk or chant in Sanskrit at 3 a.m. Just 10 minutes of sitting still, breathing like a calm llama, and not doom-scrolling Reddit is already a heroic act. Meditation helps train your mind to stop chasing random fears in the middle of the night. Deep breathing slows your heart rate, calms your nervous system, and makes you less of a magnet for creepy sleep demons. And yoga, it's like stretching your body while politely telling your brain, hey, chill out. Plus, it makes you flexible enough to kick imaginary monsters under your bed. Bonus. So next time you're prepping for bed, try replacing just one more episode with a yoga mat and some breathing. Your future self and your sleep will thank you. For nearly 10 years, Henrik, a graphic designer from Oslo, dreaded going to bed more than Mondays. Every night, like clockwork, he'd find himself paralyzed, eyes wide open, unable to move, while a dark silhouette loomed over him. At first, he blamed stress, then his noisy upstairs neighbor, then possibly a family curse. But nothing changed, until one sleepless night, curiosity won over fear, and he started researching. He devoured articles, joined online forums, even watched academic lectures with subtitles. That's when the aha moment hit. It's called sleep paralysis, not demons, not vengeful ancestors, just a brain glitch between REM and waking. With that knowledge, something shifted. The next time it happened, he didn't panic. He mentally whispered, "Relax, Henrik, this is science." It wasn't a miracle cure, but for the first time in years, he felt like he had a flashlight in the dark. Understanding the mechanism was the first step in regaining control. Lucia, a 28-year-old barista from Florence, was convinced she was cursed. Every week, like a Netflix horror series, she'd wake up frozen, eyes wide in terror, with a shadowy figure at the foot of her bed. Her first stop? A local spiritual healer who waved sage around her apartment like it was an exorcism-themed cooking show. Then came salt circles, protective crystals, and even a homemade amulet made from garlic and rose petals. Don't ask. But the hauntings continued, desperate and sleepless. She finally saw a psychiatrist. Within 5 minutes, the diagnosis was clear. Sleep paralysis linked to anxiety and irregular sleep patterns. No demons, no hexes, just an overworked nervous system. Lucia started therapy, regulated her sleep, and slowly reclaimed her nights. Looking back, she jokes, "Turns out I didn't need holy water. I just needed melatonin and a better mattress." Every night at 3:17 a.m., Thomas, an introverted architecture student in Prague, was yanked from sleep into the same nightmare. A crumbling stairwell, endless red doors, a whisper calling his name in reverse, and just as he'd reached the last door, bam! He'd wake up paralyzed, drenched in sweat, and convinced he was trapped between worlds. It wasn't just sleep paralysis anymore. It was a recurring dream with VIP access to his subconscious. Skeptical but desperate, Thomas started dream therapy. His therapist, a calm woman who wore too many scarves, encouraged him to draw the dream, map it, confront it. Bit by bit, Thomas realized the dream world mirrored his real-life anxieties. Deadlines, fear of failure, unresolved grief. Over time, the nightmare lost its teeth. The doors still appeared, but now he knew what was behind them, and they no longer scared him. His review? Turns out the monster was just me. Before coffee. Meet Clara and Lucas, two sleep paralysis veterans with completely opposite approaches. Clara, a 28-year-old yoga instructor from Vienna, swore by crystals, incense, and nightly chants to the moon. Lucas, 31, a software engineer from Berlin, went full science mode, EEG sleep tracking, CBT sessions, and 5 different sleep apps. They met by chance in a Reddit thread titled, "I Just Punched a Demon in My Dream." From there, they became friends, sharing experiences, coping tips, and memes about sleep demons. What surprised both of them? Despite choosing wildly different paths, spiritual versus scientific, the outcome was the same: understanding, healing, and a lot fewer terrifying 3 a.m. wake-ups. The most important thing, Clara said, wasn't whether you lit a candle or logged your REM cycle. It was the feeling that someone out there actually listened. Lucas nodded and added, and having someone to message when your bed turns into a haunted trampoline definitely helps. At one point, Mark, a 30-year-old barista from Brussels, had given up. After years of sleep paralysis, he accepted that 3 a.m. would forever be demon o'clock. But one evening, while doom-scrolling through sleep forums, he stumbled on a bizarre suggestion. Try keeping a sleep journal. Oh, and learn to lucid dream. Skeptical but desperate, Mark started documenting his nights: time of sleep, what he ate, the number of espresso shots consumed, usually too many, and what nightmares showed up. He also trained his mind to recognize dream signs like flying baguettes or upside-down clocks. Slowly, things changed. The more aware he became, the less power the paralysis had. One night, instead of freezing in terror, Mark mentally shouted, "Not tonight, demon!" And it worked. Sleep paralysis didn't vanish overnight, but Mark's fear did. With every entry in his journal, he reclaimed a piece of peace. Now he laughs about it over lattes, reminding friends, even your nightmares can be managed, just don't drink 5 espressos at midnight. So, what is sleep paralysis really? Is it just a brain glitch, a psychological hiccup, or, as some swear by, a gateway to another dimension where shadow creatures moonlight as sleep consultants? The truth is, it depends on who you ask. Ask a neuroscientist and they'll say it's REM sleep gone rogue. Ask Aunt Helga and she'll tell you it's your soul getting squished by night goblins. The phenomenon sits awkwardly at the crossroads of science and spirituality, like someone wearing a lab coat and carrying a bundle of sage. What makes it tricky is that the experience is real. The terror, the pressure on the chest, the whispers, the whispers. And so each person seeks meaning in their own way. For some, understanding the brain is enough. For others, burning incense and chanting mantras helps them sleep at night. In the end, whether it's neural misfires or mystical forces, the answer lies not in which is true, but in what makes you feel empowered to face it again. What if sleep paralysis wasn't just something to fear, but something to master? Welcome to the bizarre overlap between sleep paralysis and lucid dreaming. Lucid dreamers train themselves to realize they're dreaming and take control, like flying over Paris in pajamas or chatting with Einstein in a cafe. Now imagine applying that to sleep paralysis. Instead of panicking, some brave and slightly unhinged souls practice staying calm during paralysis, turning the experience into a launchpad for dream exploration. They use techniques like reality checks, journaling, and even setting intentions before bed. Yes, it's like prepping for a mental spacewalk. Of course, not everyone wants to ride a demon pig through a dream volcano, but for some, the idea of turning fear into adventure is just too tempting. Is it dangerous? Well, only if your dream self forgets to wear pants to the office. But hey, if we can't always avoid the weirdness, maybe we can learn to surf it. What happens when dreams feel more real than reality? Some people, during sleep paralysis or intense dreams, find themselves questioning if they've just peeked into another dimension, or simply their own subconscious wearing a very theatrical costume. Imagine waking up in your bed, but everything's slightly off. The clock ticks backward, your cat speaks French, and gravity is taking a coffee break. These hyper-real experiences often leave us wondering, where does reality end and imagination begin? Is the mind just playing tricks? Or are we brushing up against something deeper, like an existential Easter egg hunt? Scientists call it hypnagogic hallucinations. Spiritual folks might call it a soul journey. Your aunt probably blames Mercury retrograde. Either way, these moments are powerful. They blur the line between what we think is real and what might be hiding just under the surface. So next time your brain throws you into a dream where your toaster gives life advice, maybe listen, or at least write it down for your therapist. Sleep paralysis is like a mirror that reflects your inner fears, beliefs, and memories. just with extra dramatic lighting and creepy sound effects. If you're panicking, your brain obliges with a demonic shadow doing interpretive dance on your chest. But if you stay calm, that shadow might just fade into the wall like a bad idea. Turns out, the more terrified you are, the more intense and grotesque the hallucinations become. It's like your subconscious has a flair for horror directing. But here's the twist. Staying calm isn't about pretending the monster isn't real. It's about realizing that you are the director of this spooky production. Some people even learn to talk back to their sleep demons. Like, "Hey Greg, not tonight, I've got a 9 a.m. meeting." And strangely, that attitude works. The more you accept the experience instead of fighting it, the faster it passes. So next time you're frozen in bed and a shadow looms, try a deep breath and a mental shrug. You're not weak. You're just starring in your own late-night psychological thriller with optional popcorn. And here we are, at the end of our roller coaster ride through the bizarre world of sleep paralysis. After all the shadows, demons, and uninvited dream guests, the truth is, there's no single truth. For some, sleep paralysis is a brain hiccup. For others, it's a spiritual awakening, or a cursed visit from their great-aunt's ghost. Science shrugs and says, "We're still studying." Spirituality nods and whispers, "We've always known." But between those extremes lies you. What you choose to believe matters most. Will you light incense and chant? Will you journal and breathe deeply? Or will you just whisper, "Not tonight, Shadow Man," and roll over? No answer's wrong, except maybe pretending it doesn't exist while clearly being pinned by a metaphysical linebacker. The key isn't banishing the experience, it's coexisting with it, understanding it, and maybe even laughing about it. Because if you've made it this far, congratulations. You've survived the spooky, science meets sorcery mashup that is sleep paralysis. Just remember, whether it's REM phase misfire or portal to another realm, you get to decide what story to believe. And that, my friend, is where the power lies. You thought sleep paralysis was just something you dealt with in the dark, alone, with sweaty palms and existential dread? Well, Hollywood thought, what if we made that worse, but on a giant screen with surround sound? Enter horror films like Mare, The Nightmare, and Veronica, where sleep paralysis becomes the main character, and you, the viewer, become the next victim. These films don't just borrow from real experiences, they crank them up to 11. Shadow figures? Check. Screaming without sound? Check. That weird buzzing noise that feels like your soul's being microwaved? Double check. What makes these movies so effective isn't just the jump scares. It's the fact that millions of viewers have whispered, "Wait, I've felt that." By turning a sleep disorder into cinematic horror, filmmakers tap into one of the most intimate and universal fears: losing control. So next time you watch a scene where someone is stuck in bed, eyes wide, body frozen, and a demon crawling on the ceiling, congrats, you're not just watching a movie. You're watching a very dramatized, popcorn-fueled version of your own 3 a.m. trauma. You sit down to play a horror game thinking, how bad can it be? 5 minutes later, your virtual character is paralyzed in bed, eyes wide, shadowy figures creeping closer, and you can't do a thing. Welcome to the twisted genius of sleep paralysis horror games. Titles like Never-Ending Nightmares or Among the Sleep don't just give you jump scares, they drop you into the terrifying helplessness of sleep paralysis itself. Instead of running from monsters, you can't run. You just lie there, like controller in hand, screaming internally as your in-game avatar breathes heavily and stares into the abyss. These games simulate not only fear, but frustration. Every instinct screams, move! But nope, the game and your brain say, good luck, champ. The result? A digital nightmare that's somehow more stressful than a final exam you forgot to study for. And yet, people keep playing them, because apparently nothing says fun like getting psychologically body slammed by your console. You scroll through Reddit one sleepless night and stumble upon RR no sleep. One click, then another. Suddenly, you're 27 stories deep, convinced your hallway is haunted, and mildly suspicious of your own reflection. Welcome to the world of creepypasta, where sleep paralysis isn't just a condition, it's the plot twist. These viral horror stories, often starting with, "This happened to me last night," blend just enough real science with pure nightmare fuel. They feature shadowy figures standing at the foot of the bed, whispers from invisible mouths, and, of course, the classic, eyes open, body frozen, something watching. Are they true? Probably not. But your brain doesn't care at 3 a.m. when the wind creaks your window frame. That's the magic. Sleep paralysis becomes the perfect horror backdrop. It's relatable, plausible, and just ambiguous enough to have you Googling, "Is my room haunted or is this just stress?" Spoiler, it's both. Just when you thought TikTok was all dance challenges and pasta recipes, along comes pre-sleep paralysis talk. Picture this: dim lighting, eerie violin music, and a Gen Z narrator whispering, "So I woke up and couldn't move, and then I saw it." What follows is a cinematic retelling of a sleep paralysis episode, complete with dramatic reenactments, horror makeup, and subtitles like POV, "The Shadow Man Visits Again." These bite-sized horror monologues mix real experience with theatrical flair, turning late-night terror into viral entertainment. The audience? Half are freaked out, half are commenting, "Same." It's spooky, it's relatable, and somehow it ends with 2 million views and a sponsorship for melatonin gummies. The TikTok generation has taken the fear of being pinned in bed and turned it into a genre. Part documentary, part ghost story, part influencer hustle. Whether it helps people cope or just trend hop, one thing's for sure: even your nightmares are now content. So why does sleep paralysis fascinate us so much? Simple. It's the perfect storm of horror and relatability. It's not about zombies or ancient curses. It's about you, alone in bed, paralyzed, and possibly being stared at by a demon in the corner. It's intimate terror, the kind you can't run from, literally. That's why movies, games, TikToks, and creepypasta all love it. It feels personal. Everyone knows that eerie moment between sleep and wakefulness, but add a creepy figure and voila. Instant nightmare fuel. Plus, it's not just scary, it's shareable. You can post it, comment, "Same," and suddenly a terrifying experience turns into a bonding moment. It's the horror story that doesn't require a haunted house, just a mattress and bad luck. And because it's so universal, it blurs the line between science and supernatural. One person's REM glitch is another's demonic visit. And honestly, that ambiguity is half the fun. Fear is best when you can laugh at it, right after checking the closet, twice. Here's a comforting fact to kick things off. Over 1/3 of the world's population has experienced sleep paralysis at least once. That's not a cult. That's a crowd. It means if you've ever woken up unable to move, feeling like something's watching you from the shadows, congratulations. You're part of a surprisingly large and elite club of accidental horror story protagonists. The best part? You're not alone. Seriously, if sleep paralysis had a fan club, it'd be bigger than most pop bands. The phenomenon is so common it transcends borders, cultures, and bedtime rituals. Whether you're a student in Berlin, a baker in Rome, or a night owl in Prague, chances are you or someone you know has been visited by the sleep paralysis demon. But don't worry, that demon doesn't take favorites. It's an equal opportunity creeper. So next time you feel like the universe is targeting just you, remember, statistically speaking, it's probably haunting your neighbor too. Misery loves company, and so, apparently does REM sleep. Sleep paralysis doesn't kill you, but boy, does it know how to mess with your primal fears. It's like your brain goes, "What's the scariest thing I can throw at you while you're totally helpless?" And boom, suddenly you're paralyzed, invisible, isolated, and your only audience is that shadowy figure in the corner doing absolutely nothing, but somehow terrifying you more than a tax audit. This isn't about monsters under the bed. It's about the terrifying idea of losing control, of being stuck in your own body while your mind screams. You want to yell? Good luck. You want to move? Cute. It's like being the main character in a psychological thriller directed by your nervous system. And yet, weirdly enough, most people survive it. No demons carried them off, no alien abductions, just a sweaty forehead, a confused stare at the ceiling, and a newfound respect for blankets. Because when the only thing you can do is blink and breathe, suddenly, both feel like Olympic-level achievements. Fear is a master illusionist. It sneaks in, makes you think you're helpless, and then disappears, leaving you hugging your pillow like a war survivor. But here's the twist. Once you start understanding sleep paralysis, it loses its spooky power. Imagine this. You're lying there, paralyzed again. But instead of panicking, you think, hello again. My nervous system's Netflix glitch. You start noticing patterns. It happens when you're sleep-deprived, stressed, or napping on your back like a mummy. You read about REM cycles, brain-body miscommunication, and guess what? The demon in the corner becomes just a weird furniture shadow. By shifting from fear to curiosity, you reclaim control. Suddenly, your brain is no longer a haunted house. It's a science lab, and you're the researcher. The more you observe, the less you panic. The less you panic, the faster it passes. And that, dear viewer, is your superpower, turning terror into data. Sleep isn't just your brain's night shift. It's a deep-sea dive into your inner world, where the weirdest fish swim freely. And sometimes, sleep paralysis isn't a malfunction. It's a message. When your body locks and shadows creep in, your first instinct is panic. But what if it's not an attack, but an invitation to listen? Maybe you've been running on fumes, ignoring stress, bottling up emotions, skipping dreams like boring meetings. And now your brain's like, hey, we need to talk. That eerie moment might just be your subconscious yelling through a megaphone disguised as a demon. Sure, it's creepy, but also oddly poetic. The monster isn't coming from under your bed. It's coming from within, asking for attention, maybe a hug, maybe therapy. So next time you find yourself trapped in your own body, take a breath, mentally of course, and ask, what part of me needs to be heard tonight? Because sleep isn't just rest, it's a reunion with yourself. So here we are, at the end of this strange, spooky, and surprisingly relatable journey. If one night you feel your limbs turn to stone, a shadow whispers nonsense in your ear, and you're stuck in a sleep horror movie, don't freak out. Well, not too much, because now you know what it is. You've walked through science, myths, psychology, and memes of sleep paralysis. You've met the sleep demon, the inner you, and maybe even your unprocessed emotions dressed as ghostly ballerinas. And guess what? You survived. That moment of fear is no longer a mystery. It's a reminder that your mind is powerful, a bit dramatic, and loves a late-night prank. So next time it visits, take a deep breath in your head, smile mentally, and say, my old friend, let's talk. Because you're not alone. You're armed with understanding, a dash of humor, and a community of fellow sleep warriors who've all been pinned down, panicked, and came out stronger. This isn't the end. It's just lights out for now. Sleep well, brave dreamer.